As we prepare for today, I'd like to welcome all of you here. And before we start and officially call the meeting to order, I'd like to have Mr. Preston Vance, would you provide safety and security protocols for today's meeting?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, President Mills, Mayor Dyer, Commissioners, and Clint. With OUC's commitment to make safety first, we will begin each commission meeting with a safety briefing in the event of an emergency. Of course, we're located at 100 West Anderson Street in the commission chambers on the 7th floor. We have 3 exits in this room to the front, center, and back. We have identified a gathering port for employees and visitors in the need of an evacuation. We will exit the nearest door and proceed to the stairwell either to the right or left of the commission room. And then we will meet at the surface parking lot under the 408, just south of where we are located. We also have an AED first aid kit and fire extinguisher that are deployed inside of the room. We have 911 primary and backup, which will be myself and Letitia Thompson. Our CPR primary and backup will be myself and Carlos Whitty. And we also have the security team that will assist with directing emergency responders into the building and up to the 7th floor. That concludes our safety briefing for this afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, it is now 2:01, and I'd like to call the OUC Budget Workshop meeting to order. And Commissioner Gonzalez is not with us in attendance today, but I'd like to acknowledge publicly that we do have an operating quorum present this afternoon to conduct all business that may come before us. Now, let me provide some clarity. If there are any members of the public here today to address the commission concerning today's annual budget workshop, we're going to provide you an opportunity for public comment after the workshop. So please stay until that time. If you want to speak regarding the budget workshop, there are some who may be here to address other items of interest with OUC, and I will afford you an opportunity to address us after the public meeting. So we have 2 instances for the public to speak. One for the budget workshop, which we're about to commence. Second, after the normal public meeting, which you will address us at a later point. Okay, Mr. Bullock.
Thank you, President Mills. I would like to just add a few additional items as we get ready to discuss, again, the budget workshop here today. President Mills, as you indicated, June 13th, we presented the peak shift roadmap proposal to the commissioners through the pricing workshop. And we certainly had a good amount of engagement and discussion from the customers and community. It's exactly why we do this types of forum. We'll say that we commissioners continue to receive feedback, and we continue to review the program as we're continuing to receive that feedback. And just share with you, we've seen responses ranging from customers asking, when can I start the time of day rate as soon as possible, to others, perhaps a little bit of confusion about the demand level rate and how we're structuring it. Some maybe are comparing it to other utilities, and we're trying to explain how ours works and perhaps could be different. So there's confusion we're working through, and certainly there were concerns related to our net metering policy that, of course, each of you got to hear and was predominantly, I think, the driver of the comments that we heard at the workshop. We continue to receive feedback. We've shared that with commissioners, and we will keep working on getting with those customers throughout this process. We've been working to address misconceptions, listen to concerns and ideas, and over the last month, the team has been working extremely hard, meeting with many of those stakeholders and community members of the group, as we do here at OUC, and we know how important community is. And I will tell you, we had a meeting right before the commission meeting. There was another stakeholder meeting that the management team met with to continue to talk through, listen, understand, and address perhaps some of the opportunities. As you know, community is an important part to OUC, and this is why we have these open forums. And because of this, we made a decision to just take some additional time and to continue to review what we're hearing, continue to do some perhaps education and provide additional feedback. And so before presenting additional information to the board here today. So that means exactly what, again, President Mills mentioned. Outside of the peak shift, I will say today you will hear one element. Again, you will not hear the net metering. You will not hear the demand level, fixed charge, or the time of day. What you will hear is community solar. We are proposing to continue to move forward with community solar. We think it's an important element that was discussed, and we are going to present on that today because we feel like we need to keep moving on the community solar program, which to my recollection, we didn't have any necessarily feedback during the workshop, and for all the right reasons, we want to keep moving it today. As President Mills mentioned, there's 2 board meetings that we're having here today. And so the first will be the fiscal year 2025 O&M budget, in addition to the 5-year capital plan. We will go through that. You'll get a chance to hear from Mindy Burnett and Chris McCullion to walk through that. Upon completion of that, we'll seek any questions or feedback from the commissioners, as well as general appearances from the community related to the budget workshop that we're having here today. And again, we will not get into demand level, shift and save, net metering. We will then open up our standard July board meeting and go through the board meeting as a standard, and we will certainly have general appearances during that portion of the meeting, and again, in which we would expect members, if they have additional comments to share with the board, they can do it at that time. I will say that upon taking some additional time, doing some additional research related to the program, what I want to share with commissioners is at the earliest, and again, we don't have a firm schedule yet because we're still listening and working through, but the earliest I can envision bringing anything back to the commission would be at the September meeting, at which point we would provide an update to the commissioners. But again, we will have no action, no discussion at the August board meeting related to the program, as the management team, again, continues to listen to stakeholders and work through, and then we will bring, again, at the earliest. So we'll continue to update the schedule. In the meantime, we'll ask everyone that's interested, all those individuals, to please continue to check oucpeakshift.com, so aware of what we're discussing today and what the procedures will be related to the workshop that we will open and then close and then go into our standard July 9th board meeting. With that, I would like to ask Mindy Burnett and Chris McCullion to come up. We got kind of a 2-podium setup. This is another step in the transition here of one executive retiring and one being 100% fully in the seat. So Chris is going to certainly own this O&M and 5-year capital plan budget, but I thought it'd be a great opportunity for both of them to tag team and give the update here to the board today. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mindy and Chris.
That's awesome. Thank you, Clint. Good afternoon, President Mills, Commissioners, Mayor. Chris and I will be presenting the 2025 annual budget and the 5-year capital plan, along with pricing changes. Well, that was weird. It buzzes. Okay. So first, we like to start off with an overview. We align our financial budget and the capital plan along our strategic plan. We really set it to align with our vision to be an innovative leader and partner of choice, along with our mission to deliver exceptional value to our customers and the community through the delivery of sustainable and reliable services and solutions. Supporting the mission and vision are strategic roadmaps. You will hear me refer to them. You'll hear Chris refer to them. And so we'll be talking about those, particularly around the capital plan, because that's really where our journey is forward. Just some basic foundations, pretty consistent year over year. The operating budget is prepared using cost recovery principles. This is not new for us. This is the way we've put our budget together for as long as I've been here, which is about 26 years and before my time. Customer pricing is designed to recover our operating costs, including a return, which is shared with the City of Orlando. Our pricing is designed to be fair and equitable while providing customers with bill stability and price signals to promote conservation. You'll hear this again as we talk about our pricing changes proposed for 2025. The 5-year capital plan really builds on our long-term strategies. I picked up language from the EIRP because all of our capital projects are really designed around ensuring reliability, affordability, sustainability, and resiliency, whether that is electric or water, really our long-term capital is designed around those parameters to provide value to our customers and the community. Our key focus for these long-term projects, we informally call them our North Star projects, and you'll hear us talk about them as well, our path to clean energy and our path to alternative water sources. So those are our two key projects, but you'll hear a lot more because we do more than just that. So moving into what I like to call the nuts and bolts of our presentation, really, we start with cost recovery because, again, this is how we price our product. This is how we price electric and water services. This is how revenue is derived. So we like to start with the costs. Our recoverable costs for 25 are anticipated to increase a little less than 1.5%. And it's comprised of three key items. We are seeing additional savings coming through on fuel. We did take an action on July 1 to reduce our fuel prices. They went into effect July 1. We're proposing changes, but those changes are price neutral. So you'll hear more about those later. We do see about 3.8% increase in our non-fuel operating expenses. Those are informally depreciation, unit department expenses, our capacity payments, all of the non-fuel components. And then you see a higher percentage on our interest expense, but if you see that very small green line, it's proportionately higher, but it's our net non-operating expenses, and that is in anticipation of issuing new money, new bonds to support our capital plan. Dropping one level down further on fuel, really looking to take a step forward on our renewable portfolio. We anticipate having 2 utility-scale solar farms going live at the end of '24 into the new fiscal year '25, both at 74.5 megawatts, bringing the total portfolio to about 293.5 megawatts. With that, we also are projecting to see our fuel costs, again, remaining low and continuing to decline slightly. Our average cost per megawatt hour is anticipated and projected to be about $34.64. That is about an 11% decrease from the prior year. So again, prices are stabilizing, our commodity costs are coming down. We do see stability with expanding our renewable energy portfolio, and we anticipate that will represent about 16% of our fuel portfolio by the end of '25. I'm going to try to make sure I cover all of my notes. For the non-operating fuel, there's a lot on this page, and that is because it encompasses a lot. We see about an 8% increase on our core operating costs, and there are a lot of things driving that beyond just inflation and supply chain costs, the impacts of those. We are seeing some new first-year costs related to outside services. We put in those, OUC will be picking up the walk-in center fees for our customers. That's a first-year cost. We do see in '25, we will be relaunching the Electric Integrated Resource Plan refresh and a strategy refresh. So those are also included in here as one-time costs. That's not all of the 8%. There's a lot of other components really driven around inflation. We do see about a 5.6% increase in labor and benefits as we continue to fill vacancies post-COVID, as well as labor inflation. We do see some offsets from stronger investment performance in our pension, which is helping to offset a little bit of that increase. On the capacity side, we do see about a 3.4% increase in capacity and other payments. The board approved the addition of 87 megawatts at Stanton A. This is a full year annualized cost of that in here, along with some higher minority plant and chemical and utility costs. Also included in here is the formula-driven payment to the City of Orlando. And then offsetting all of these increases, which is much, much lower, is depreciation expense, less than 1%. And really, this is driven by, we've talked all year about supply chain challenges, getting transformers, getting our products in, labor constraints. We are seeing delays in our capital projects, and that is cascading into depreciation expense. So we're seeing a little bit of a lag on depreciation expense, which is bringing that year-over-year growth down and also providing a little more bandwidth here on some other increases that are more short-term in nature. And here's that 10.3% that seems big, but is a much smaller number. And that is really driven by the new money that we plan on issuing early in the fall this year. We'll have two issues, one coming at the end of this year for about $100 million, and then the second time with a refunding later in the year for about $150 million. We also have a favorable impact from completing the decommissioning of the MAC 3 generation facility that will complete at the end of this fiscal year. And so that will relieve some costs that we've been carrying year over year for the last 3 years. Again, this is a first year savings as opposed to some items which are a first year cost. And then we do see, like you see on fuel and purchase power, their pass-through costs, we have similar costs on chilled water. When utility costs come down, we pass through those savings to the customer. So revenue is coming down because the pass-through costs are also coming down, and that's associated with chilled water. So overall, it's about a $2 million increase, but it's about 10% on the total. And then moving into the capital plan, but before I do that, do you have any questions on the O&M side? No. Okay. So moving over to the capital plan, we do see the capital plan increasing about 9.5%. You have two main projects, like two North Star projects, as I mentioned. They are the Path to Clean Energy and the Path to Alternative Water Sources. When you break the capital plan down, those two projects fit in our strategic portion of the capital plan, and that represents about 45% of the plan. And then our core operations are about 55% of the plan. You'll hear me as we talk through this. You'll see water is getting really growing at a quicker pace than electric is now. It is a timing. Electric projects are completing while water projects are now coming into the 5-year period. So we'll talk more about that on the next few slides. Here's what I refer to as our North Star projects, the Path to Clean Energy and Alternative Water Sources. They represent about 10% of the total capital plan, with the Path to Clean Energy being about $77.1 million. Pretty consistent year over year in the 5-year period. But on the water side, we are seeing with the reverse osmosis Southwest Water Treatment Plant, got all those words right without stuttering on some of them. You can see here that is about a 12.5% increase going from 60-something million. Well, it represents 12.5% of the total capital plan. It is close to an 80% increase. 61 million last year to 102 this year. So really, it's always been out there in the 10-year plan. It's just moving closer into the 5-year plan. So you heard Wade talk about that a few commission meetings ago, maybe even one or two.
Could I
Yes.
ask a question about that one? The first sub-bullet on that slide.
But let me go back. I went the wrong way.
Yeah, okay. So, very good. We're including language from the EIRP. We've got our eyes focused on that path to clean energy. And we've proposed here $77 million to help us with this transition from the coal-fired generation to natural fuel sources, including OGS. And I know
Yes.
we're going to get up to the affirmative items here pretty soon. And we have some unexpected hiccups right now on Osceola. So where do we budget unexpected things so that we try to anticipate what may get between us and executing the EIRP plan, which is so important.
So for everything that is unfavorable and unplanned, there are things that delay, that create favorable windfalls. So I wouldn't call them windfalls, that's probably not the right word. It's always a timing of things happening. These are capital projects and they have a long ramp. So usually we have traditionally been below budget on the capital plan. We are targeting in '24 to be around the 94% of the capital plan. There is contingency included in here for these type of circumstances. So we don't see ourselves stretched beyond because we do have contingency to allow us a little more flexibility beyond just the normal pull and push of capital projects. Does that?
Thank you for mentioning the contingent funding in there. I didn't want it to the public to think that we just haphazardly
No.
juggle, okay?
No.
We do have a line of contingent funding in our capital plan that offsets some of the things that we're saying.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. No, it's very methodically done in a way that we can ensure that we stay within our rate structure and also provide the bandwidth to meet the strategic goals. Any more questions on the slide? Okay, the other half of the 45% is really around these portfolios of growth optimization, grid hardening. That grid hardening is really around the downtown transmission line, and that is about $200 million in that 5-year capital plan. Here you see water, really, again, the water quality initiatives growing substantially. Last year, they were around the $50 million mark. Now they're about 103 as we advance the granular carbon activated projects that you heard about at Conway last week. Let me take that back, last commission meeting. And then we've got a few other projects in there around water quality. And then we have the back office strategy as well. All portfolios that help move us forward on our strategic pillars, customer, community, and the employee, and then aligning on the key points of reliability, affordability, sustainability, and resiliency of our system. Moving into the more core projects, we have normal reliability initiatives in the electric area, R&R, generation updates, really core operating items. The same for water, but here also we are seeing an expansion here, about $100 million growth on water for renewal and replacement projects as the water system continues to age and as projects are opened up and we partner with the city or the FDOT, we get an opportunity to go in while the streets are open and take advantage of replacing some of those pipes if it's needed and if it's appropriate. And then we've got core operating projects on the support services side, fleet, technology, IT initiatives, all representing about 15% of the capital plan. Any questions on these?
Yeah.
So that wraps up the cost recovery operating budget, the capital plan. And so here I'm going to talk a little bit about the price changes that we're proposing. As I mentioned, our price changes are driven around long-honored cost recovery principles, balancing sustainability, reliability, and our innovative solutions, moving that forward. Price stability, predictability, fairness and equity, conservation's 3 key pillars that have been, stalwarts in our pricing design. We are consistently measuring ourselves around our key performance indicators, which are our strategic peer average, to make sure that we are delivering on that affordability metric. For electric, we are proposing a rate neutral change for the average residential customer, and that is a $1 increase on the customer charge and an offsetting decrease on the fuel charge. It's about a 2.5% 1.5% decrease on the fuel charge. Again, the price will stay at $125 for 1,000 kilowatt hours per month. That's the rate that went into effect on July 1. It will remain in effect, just a rebalancing between the customer charge and fuel. The 2.5% on fuel will be across all customer segments, and there will be alternative changes on the customer charges as well as demand charges for the commercial customers. Also, last year, we did for the first time 1% incorporated into the pricing plan for Path to Clean Energy. We are keeping that 1%. We are not increasing it. It will remain at 1%. We continue to earmark those funds to support those projects. And so we defer them as we shared in the audit finance. We defer them. We recognize them as we move those projects forward. So no additional changes to that. So 1% of the price of the revenue that we collect from all of these prices will continue to support that program. As Clint mentioned, we are proposing to move forward the Sun Choice Community Solar Program, and that is in two parts. The residential program, which will be reopening the existing program with modified pricing. We'll be communicating to our existing community solar farm customers to see if they're interested in continuing to participate in the program at a different rate. It is designed a little bit differently, with a premium off the retail fuel rate. And the same program will exist for commercial, except that it will be tiered and they will have the option, well, actually, their program is designed for them to be able to take the renewable energy credit. So their price is a little bit different. It has an additional 0.3 cents on it for the value of the renewable energy credit. And that program is tiered to their usage, so the price is designed differently depending on the level of participation, again, benchmarked around their average monthly consumption. That is also planning to go into effect on October 1. And then we have several small changes here, two around the EV charging. These are for the public EV charging, the level 2 and level 3. Those will be going up, I believe it's 16 cents for the level 2, moving up to 20 cents, and 35 cents for the level 3, up to 40 cents. There are some other small changes around totalizers for large commercial demand customers, and then cut seal trip charges for where our crews have to go out and reseal the meter. Small, very small dollar charges, but they're tariff-based charges. So I wanted to be transparent. You'll see that on the agenda item in August. Moving on to water, we are proposing water rate increases in '24. They are aligned with the St. John's Water Management District, really focusing on the top blocks. This will be also the second year of the jurisdictional alignment, so inside-outside city rates, inside-outside water rates will remain the same, effective on October 1. And then we also are proposing a 12.5% increase for the system development charges. As a reminder, those charges are fully funding the path to alternative water sources. So that advancement of alternative water sources is a developer-supported program. And just as a point of reference, for the average residential customer using 10,000 gallons, our price will be around $24.64, just slightly below our peer in Orange County, but well below the strategic peer, which is around $44. And then our last pricing changes before I hand it over to Chris, because I'm pretty sure this is now where I get to hand it over to Chris. We do have the second of 3-year price changes on conventional lighting. These changes are, we did 10% last year, we're proposing 10% this year, there'll be another 10%. But this is because we hadn't made changes since 2014, so really needed to take a catch-up on some of those pricing changes. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have on operating budget, capital plan, pricing, but Chris will talk about the revenues. We'll switch spots, and he will get a chance to share.
Can you remind me again? I know I ask you this almost every time. On the community solar pricing, it looks like we're pegging it now to fuel prices. Can you just remind me how that's so much more helpful because it keeps us out of trouble?
Yes, so we know that one of the things that FERC really allows us to do is create a fuel stabilization, a fuel adjustment clause. And that is because we don't have any control of commodity prices. And so we really want the program to be long-lasting and sustaining. And so putting a small premium on that will allow us to not reach that point where we were last time that was cost prohibitive. And really wanted to carve out that resources, that stable fixed resource for all of our customers. So we want the program to really help us lean into the future and really help us accelerate that growth and really at a larger scale, but at the same time ensure that we are fully recovering our costs for that equity, that whole point of equity.
So this now can be for the long duration?
Yes.
As long as we've got solar to sell, this is for the long haul at this point?
This is it. We
Thank you.
don't have any, we don't foresee any limitations with this design.
Exactly. Good, thank you.
If we knew what we knew, the rearview mirror is always great.
Good. All right. Thank you, Mindy, and good afternoon, President Mills, Commissioners, Mayor Dyer, Clint. The next few slides, we will walk through what our revenues are proposed to look like in the operating budget for fiscal '25. And primarily, those changes are driven by our projections in customer growth and the pricing changes that Mindy just covered. At a high level, top line total revenues are increasing by 1.5%. The components of those primarily are a 3.5% increase in electric non-fuel revenues, driven by customer growth and some of the pricing changes Mindy just covered. A 4.2% decrease in electric fuel revenues as a result of lower fuel expenses, and a 5.1% increase in water and other revenues driven by pricing adjustments, again, that Mindy just covered. You can see on the bar chart on the right, total fiscal '25 proposed budgeted revenues, $1,076 million, almost $77 million, primarily composed of electric fuel and non-fuel revenues, approximately 80% electric revenues, 20% or so water and other revenues. Drilling down a little bit to electric revenues, we've got less than 1% increase in total electric revenues. The components of that are a 7.4% decrease in electric fuel revenues, again, lower fuel commodity costs, and reserves reaching our target levels. Our fuel stabilization reserve is reaching its target level. We have a 4.5% increase in non-fuel electric retail and interlocal revenues. Again, that's customer growth, the revenue neutral price changes that Mindy just covered, and then we have some recognition of 2024 resources that will be carried forward into 2025 and used to fund the budget in fiscal '25. Just to reiterate again, the price changes that we covered on the electric side allow for the average residential customer using 1,000 kilowatt hours a month to stay at $125 per month, which is below our strategic peer average that Mindy covered a few slides back. We also have a 6.2% increase in resale revenues from projected higher volume spot market sales, and that's somewhat offset by we have one expiring firm wholesale power supply contract that expires going into next year. Bar chart on the right, $877 million in electric revenues. 93% of those are from retail electric revenues. We have a small component that is wholesale or resale revenues. On the water and other revenues side, we have a 5.1% increase in water. That's a 9.2% increase in water revenues, primarily from removing the pricing differential between inside city customers versus outside city customers. So going into fiscal '25, all of our water customers will be paying the same retail rates, regardless of whether they live inside the city limits or outside the city limits. No change in chilled water revenues. As Mindy mentioned, there are some components of the chill water expenses that are changing, but that has no net impact on revenues. And then we have a 1.7% increase in service fees and lighting due to the conventional lighting price changes that Mindy mentioned earlier.
Chris?
Yes, sir.
And so the inside the city limits or outside, that's what you're referring to as jurisdictional price changes?
Yes.
Thank
sir.
you.
Yep.
Okay.
Starting October 1, 2024, going into fiscal 25, all of our retail water customers will pay the same rate.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, nearing the end of the budget workshop, just a couple points on next steps. At your August 13th board meeting, we will bring back to you the fiscal 2025 operating budget for your adoption. We'll bring back the 5-year capital plan for your acceptance, and then we will bring back the various pricing changes and tariff sheets that are required to implement the pricing changes that Mindy covered during this workshop. Customers will obviously, in accordance with our normal practices, be notified of these pricing changes in September so that they know what's coming in terms of pricing changes for their October bills. Lastly, this is the last slide of the budget workshop. Just wanted to reiterate that the budget and the capital plan and the proposed pricing changes deliver a balanced budget that supports OUC's very strong bond credit rating. The budget is built to support the strong financial metrics that make those strong credit ratings possible. We meet regularly, and we've met recently with all 3 of the major credit rating agencies, Moody's, Standard & Poor's, and Fitch. They continue to express their confidence in OUC's strong financial position and the strong track record of really excellent financial management, both at the staff level and with the decision-making at the board level. We've also made a point to make sure they understand the CFO transition from Mindy to me, as Mindy retires later this year, has been done in a very thoughtful and intentional way. So that gives them some comfort about the future of the organization in terms of the CFO role. And I'm just going to take the opportunity to express my gratitude to Mindy while I'm up here. I've just been so fortunate to be able to work alongside her the last few months. She's been so helpful to help me get up to speed quickly, and it's been incredibly helpful to me, and I'm very grateful to Mindy, so thank you, Mindy. One last thank you to wrap up. Just want to thank our budget team, which is here. Budget team, raise your hand. You don't have to stand up, just raise your hand. Also, our corporate analytics and planning team, our rates team have been really helpful, extremely helpful over all of this process of putting together the budget. And the last thank you is really to the entire OUC team, because the budget comes together as very much a group effort. There are teammates throughout the organization that are involved in putting together the budget projections, submitting the budget expenses, reaching consensus on which projects are able to make it into the budget this time, and how we are going to address the limited resources we have and the growing list of needs that we have to fund. It's very much a collaborative effort across the organization. I just want to thank everybody who has had a role in that. So thank you all.
Any comments from the commissioners? All right, Chris, I appreciate your astuteness of letting Mindy present the bad news, and you do. Very good,
sir.
very good start. All right, we've now completed the workshop presentation by management and staff. I'd like to invite any members of the public who want to address the commission on budget workshop. I have a lot of speaker requests after the general meeting, which I will again open for public, but this is just for the budget workshop. If there's anybody from the public who wishes to address us. All right, seeing none, at this time then, if there are no speakers, any other additional comments or anything before we officially adjourn? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn the budget workshop? It's been properly moved by Mayor Dyer and second by Commissioner Chapin. Do we have any other further discussion? All right, if not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? So ordered. The budget workshop is adjourned at 2:39. All right, we now move into our general board meeting, and we're going to begin this meeting with Ms. Whitby. Ebony, will you provide the moment of reflection? Is she here? Oh.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. So I apologize in advance. I have a bit of a cough, so let's hope that doesn't happen throughout this presentation. So I recently had an opportunity to attend CS Week in May. During the conference, the keynote speaker, Greg Bell, posed a question to the audience that challenged us to reshape the way we think by talking to ourselves and others, by posing a simple question. The question was, what's going well? When I listened to him speak and tell stories involving that one question, I decided to make every attempt to modify my way of thinking and interacting with people. Just think about it for a moment. How often do you sit and reflect on what's going well? If you're like me and most of the people I know, that's not the norm. We focus on what needs to happen next or what we could have done better, right? We're wired to focus on those things, but if we reflect on what's going well, we force ourselves to think positive, which ultimately fosters a better mood and appreciation for life. As you conduct the meeting today, many of the agenda items will require you to address matters of the past and plan for the future. While carrying out this important task, remember to stay attuned to the present and reflect on what is going well with OUC, our beautiful city, and most importantly, yourselves. As Winston Churchill once said, the positive thinker sees the invisible, feels the intangible, and achieves the impossible. I challenge each of you today to leave with that one question in mind. What is going well? Thank you and have a great and safe meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Very insightful. I would now like to invite Mr. Ben Roy Akers to come forward and lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Roy Akers served in the Army for 8 years, achieved the rank of specialist. And Mr. Roy Akers has worked at OUC for 1 year, and his current title is Emergency Management Specialist. Please stand and join us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Thank you so much for your service. All right, the time now is 2:42, and I call the July 9th, 2024 Commission meeting to order. Our next item on the agenda is consideration of the May 14th pricing workshop minutes, and what I'll do is entertain a motion to waive the reading of the pricing workshop minutes and adopt them as published.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. Is there any discussion? No further discussion. We'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Our next item on the agenda is consideration of the May 14th, 2024 Commission meeting minutes. Same principle applies. I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading of the Commission minute meetings and adopt them as published.
So moved.
Second.
We have a proper motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? No further discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The minutes for the June 13th, 2024 pricing roadmap public workshop have not been finalized yet, and I just want to make mention of that. Will be presented for consideration at the next commission meeting, and then we'll take a motion as time with so many different things would not allow that. Do we have any service awards? Oh, no, I see that. No service awards for this month, so we will proceed with the community recognition. Thank you. Janice, Sonny.
Thank you, President Mills, Commissioners, Mayor Dyer, Clint. On Saturday, June 2nd, OUC employees, along with their families, partnered with U.S. Hunger and Operation New Hope to package food and hygiene kits to help those located in OUC's Empowerment Zone. Launched in 2019, the Empowerment Zone was founded to provide community support and encourage economic prosperity in the 32805 zip code. As you've heard us tell in the past, from free little libraries to putting in energy efficiency upgrades in more than 80 homes, to the pre-apprenticeship program, which helps young people find jobs above the median salary. The work in this zone is very near and dear to our heart. But this particular project is where volunteers assembled 20,000 food kits containing red lentil jambalaya that the U.S. Hunger sent to the Christian Service Center for their Daily Bread program. Started in 1979, the Daily Bread program provides free, nutritious lunchtime meals for families and individuals 6 days a week, right in the heart of our service territory. U.S. Hunger is dedicated to addressing the root cause of food insecurity, striving to create a hunger-free world. In addition to food kits, volunteers also assembled 1,000 hygiene kits, which were donated to Operation New Hope. This organization provides support, life and job skill training for individuals who've been involved with the criminal justice system and helps guide them towards employment and sustainable living. At OUC, we're dedicated to empowering every member of our community, not only through our work as a utility, but through bill assistance, volunteerism, and a commitment to solving the challenges facing our homes and our neighborhoods. As you'll see in the video we're about to play, our employees are honored to partner together, which is one of our values, with so many organizations and help them make a difference right here in our community. Altogether, this event accumulated in 268 hours being donated by our employees and their families. So we'll play a quick video for you.
So we are so excited to be here today for our third quarterly employee volunteer event. We have 82 employees here, ranging from our COO to our Chief Customer and Marketing Officer. Internal audit is in the house, customer service is in the house, and so we are just excited to be here today, packing 21,000 kits. That is so amazing to benefit both U.S. Hunger and Operation New Hope.
We get great, wonderful organizations like OUC and our other partners across the country that want to make an impact. And so they use the power of volunteerism to bring people together and literally provide food, healthy food, back into the local community. So for example, today, the meals, 20,000 meals that are being packed are all being distributed by Monday morning into the empowerment zone. So you guys do that. We don't really feed anyone, you all feed through us, and that's what makes this partnership incredible.
This is actually my first OUC volunteer event. You know, volunteering just gives me an opportunity to just give back to the community. I know that there's a lot of people that are in need. I've been in need myself, and I just appreciate people who will take their time to serve the community and give back.
Hunger is not what you think it looks like. 7 out of 10 of the folks that come to U.S. Hunger, those individuals are working individuals. 8 out of 10 of them have health insurance, and not just Medicare or Medicaid. A third of them have employer insurance. And so the narrative of what is hungry and or what is food or nutritional insecurity has truly changed. You know, hunger can affect anyone. It looks like me, it looks like you, it looks like every volunteer in here. And so just grateful for OUC really expanding our partnership. We did more meals this year than we've done in the past, and that just allows us to impact more people. So just to OUC, your employees, your leaders, it's not unseen. So thank you for what you're doing.
So I do want to take a moment to thank Queen, who was in the video. She did a wonderful job in that video, as well as with the event and the community engagement team, and of course to all of the volunteers and their families who showed up that day to help us. So that is all I have, unless you have questions for me.
No, that's awesome. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Appreciate the effort. All right, we move on with the agenda. At this time, we move into the affirmative items that the commissioners have seen in their pre-package. And Mr. Bullock, before we consider, do you have any requests or comments, rather, or presentations on affirmative items at this time?
Yes, I do. And just to clarify, we don't have anyone that wants to speak on affirmative items.
No, I was going to address that
Yeah,
after.
okay. Yes, President Mills, Commissioners, I do have one item. Janice, if you want to go ahead and head back up. Want to highlight A23 for the commissioners, really kind of demonstrate our partnership with Heart of Florida United Way, and really demonstrate how OUC continues to work within the community, especially for folks that have fallen upon unique situations or circumstances and need some assistance from a bill payment standpoint. So I thought Janice would give a little update to the board, remind them of what this program is and how we help the members of the community. So Janice.
Yep, thank you, Clint. I didn't expect to be back up so fast, so here I am. In addition to telling you about Project CARE and our partnership with United Way, we know it's very hot out, and we want to talk to you a little bit about hot weather, how it impacts high bills, and then the customer assistance that we have, of which Project Care is part of that solution. Before we dive in, quick reminder, earlier this year, you approved a fuel rate decrease. It went into effect July 1st, which is a great time given that the hot weather is increasing. It is a fuel rate decrease, which is a pass-through cost. The average residential customer using 1,000 kilowatt hours will see a monthly savings of about $7 or $84 a year, and mid to large commercial customers will see a decrease of 5 to 7%. We do have this information on our bill insert, and we'll be pushing out through other channels as well in the coming weeks. So that's good news, and thank you for approving that in May. So when it's hot outside, our customers certainly feel the heat. And in fact, our employees do too, whether they're out in the field working or whether they're in our customer service area or conservation area, the work picks up, it gets hot. So we do have a hot weather policy. We suspend disconnects when the temperature is forecast to be equal or greater to 96 degrees. Even if a customer is scheduled, we will not do that disconnect. And we've done that 30 times since 2021, just to give you some background. So during this time of year, the average bill increased 24% during the high bill season for the last 3 years. The low is 15%, the high is 33%. What that results in are accounts going into arrears from late payments, and then they fall into a pattern of a late payment fee and needing to get caught up. So then those impacts are also noticeable in customer service, billing, and sustainability operations. The team will see a higher increase in contacts, whether through the phone or through email. They'll get a higher billing call volume, so they're calling about why is my bill so high, what's happening. Then that results in higher payment extension requests, which then will lead to the billing team. They see these high usage reports coming through, and then they have to work those exceptions to make sure it's correct. So it all trickles through. And last but not least, on this page, we do also see an increase in conservation audits, because that's one of the fastest things that we can do. We can say, hey, let us come help you figure out what's going on and teach you ways to save in hot weather. So moving on to the next, here are all the programs that we have. And actually, this isn't all of them. This is a highlight of some of the programs that we have to help our customers all year round, but a lot during hot weather and high bill season. So there's, of course, the energy and water audits that I mentioned. There is an online tool or an in-person tool. Sometimes our auditors can do that over the phone or send an email with details. We do offer payment plans, which allow customers to spread out those payments. We offer rebates where if customers invest in energy efficiency or water conservation upgrades, they can see a savings over time, and we'll give them an upfront incentive to do so. Budget billings are a program where we levelize payments over the year. So customers will take an average of what they pay across the different months, but we'll levelize it, and then they true up at the end of the year. Power Pass is our prepay program. We see customers who use that tend to have an 8% conservation effect, and we're getting very close to 20,000 customers on this program. Once a customer switches over to Power Pass, they no longer have a deposit, they no longer pay late fees, they prepay us instead. What's great about this, along with the fuel rate decrease that you proposed in May, you also approved waiving walk-in fees for people who go to walk-in centers. Power Pass customers use those a lot, so it's really helping these customers. And then Efficiency Delivered is our income-based program, where depending on your income level, we will pay up to a certain amount of energy efficiency upgrades made to your home, and then any that's left for the customer to pay is done so on their bill. We usually see a net savings once these programs are implemented. But to really hone in on a couple of things for you today, I'm going to tell you the customer education campaigns that we have going on right now, as well as ask for your approval on extending our United Way partnership. The key messages that we are getting out there is that your bills are going up because the weather is hot. Your AC is probably running longer than it normally does. Small actions can really help reduce your bill, from setting your thermostat to 78 degrees to using those blinds and shades. When you're in the room, using a ceiling fan helps, but you need to turn it off when you leave because it cools the person, not the room. AC system, make sure you're doing maintenance on that and changing out your air filters. And smart thermostats can really help you set and save money across the year. And then again, we're making sure customers know that we have things like the usage dashboard, audits, rebates, assistance programs. This is our See the Savings, Beat the Heat campaign. It's launched on July 1st. We're running on several different digital channels. The call to action is ouc.com/hotweather. where we provide many of the different tips that we just talked about, as well as information on our rebates and assistance programs. This will run all the way through August 31st. It'll primarily be on WFTV. The Orlando Sentinel will also do some paid advertising on Facebook and Instagram. We are talking to local publications as well that can help us get into the communities, like Onyx Magazine or Nona News, different local publications like that. And we did meet with the City of Orlando Neighborhoods team to see how they can help us get the word out. We're projecting that this campaign will have about 1.6 million projected impressions. In addition to that digital campaign, we are doing a targeted customer campaign. This is looking at five of our key customer segments, promoting 3 different energy efficient rebates. So you can see we've got some going on for the AC unit as well as duct repair. We're seeing higher than average open rates on the emails, which is great news for us. And we've seen over 150,000 social media impressions for this. And customers do have 6 months to apply for rebates, so we are working with the conservation team to track and see how many people are converting over to redeeming the rebates. And I can't talk about hot weather education without mentioning what the communications team is up to. They leverage all of our owned channels, such as our newsletter, our social media channels, and our blog to really help inform customers about ways to save. They also often pitch with the media. We'll take an auditor on camera and show ways to save. The community engagement work is also hard at work. The community Rainbow Run, 4.9K, and the St. Cloud Proud event had over 4,000 attendees, and while there, we did talk about ways to save in the hot temperatures. We put magnets into 2,000 backpacks that we're doing as part of a collaboration with After School All-Stars. And on the 4th of July, we had conservation information with about 15,000 attendees at that event. So we're also working to create an infographic to share with our community partners and leverage that network. We talked to lots of different organizational groups, whether they're NGOs or not-for-profits, and we're going to ask them to share this information in their newsletters. And we've partnered with Sustainability to create a new Leave Behind focused squarely on heat. And again, I've already mentioned that we're going to be leveraging the City of Orlando's Community Center, TVs, and other channels. All of this to lead me into Project Care. So when all else fails and a customer has a situation where they cannot pay their bill, Project Care provides assistance to them. We've offered this program since 1994 to help those who are experiencing a financial hardship. The Heart of Florida United Way administers this program for us, and they do that through a case manager that is hired on our behalf. Since its inception, Project Care has helped more than 28,000 households. Some of the specific details on the contract is that it covers the salary and benefits of that case manager. That case manager is who's checking the customer's account. They're verifying that they have had a hardship. They're making sure they qualify for the program and haven't already applied in the year that we're in. And then there is an administrative fee of 10%, which covers things like occupancy costs, utilities, insurance, technology support for United Way. So in 2024 alone, we've helped 472 households. $254.52 is the average amount that we're offering or we're giving per household. And the top 3 reasons have been job loss, reduction of hours, or an unexpected emergency expense that customers are coming for help with their utility bill. So Commission, I ask that you approve this additional funding for a change order number 1 to the Heart of Florida United Way to continue this program, increasing the total purchase order to $202,000. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them, and if I can't answer, I'm sure there's somebody who will help me in this room.
No, thank you. Very,
Okay.
very,
No, I have no further agenda items unless there's any questions by the board.
from the list that I have, those from the public would like to speak after the meeting, nothing on the affirmative items. So, is there a motion to approve affirmative items A1 through A28?
Second?
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by our mayor and second by Commissioner Gross. Is there any discussion? No further discussion. We'll take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Motion passes. All right, Commissioner Chapin, at this time, as we roll into new business, our first presentation is the Audit Finance Committee report.
Thank you. The Audit Finance Committee meeting was held on June 27, 2024. The committee was provided with an update on the pending bond refunding for the OUC Series 2010A bonds, in addition to the approval of the OUC Series 2024A bond resolution recommended for board approval of the Audit Finance Committee meeting on March 28, 2024. The committee was also provided with a recommendation to issue $100 million of the originally planned 2025 capital plan funding requirement of $250 million to meet updated plan spending as a result of rising costs and the impact of inflation. The bond refunding for the OUC Series 2010A bonds and the issuance of the new bond proceeds are anticipated to be issued as the OUC Series 2024A bonds and the OUC Series 2024B bonds, respectively. The committee recommends board approval. I think Siri is listening to my voice. The committee recommends board approval at the August 13th, 2024 commission meeting of the OUC Series 2024 bond resolution in the amount of $100 million. The committee reviewed and proposed 2025 operating budget and 2025 through 2029 capital plan, including proposed electric, water, and lighting price changes to be presented at the budget and pricing workshop preceding the July 9th, 2024 commission meeting, and action to approve the operating budget and adopt the 5-year capital plan will take place at a future commission meeting. The committee reviewed and approved administrative changes to the investment policy section of the Audit Finance Committee charter, including modifying the approval/removal authority of qualified brokers dealers to the chief financial officer. Quarterly financial updates were shared and open to additional commissioner comments for the Energy Risk Management Oversight Committee and Financial Services. In addition, the annual red flag report was provided, noting no annual findings. No additional comments by the committee. Quarterly internal audit update was provided. The committee approved the revised 2024 audit plan, postponing 2 advisory projects and adding 2 advisory projects. That is all.
Thank you so much for that. Mr. McCulley and Chris, will you present the financial?
Yes, sir. Thank you, President Mills. In your packet, you have the May 2024 financials. So in that information, you see that our income before contributions as of May was $62.6 million, $2.2 million higher than budget, and $300,000 million lower than the prior year. So as of May, everything was looking pretty good. On this slide, we have the non-fuel revenues through June. So as you know, we close our books in the first few days of the month, and so these are numbers that are hot off the press for June, but it is fiscal year to date through June. Total revenues excluding fuel revenues were $13.5 million, or $2.6 million higher than budget. These are almost entirely driven by retail sales in the Orlando and St. Cloud territory, largely driven by warmer than normal weather. And we continue to note the increase in electric vehicle penetration. Commissioner Groshi asked us a couple questions about that at the last meeting. Just want to give you a little more context on those projections. We projected the number of EV vehicles in Orange County for fiscal year 2024 at 19,000 vehicles. And based on the December 2023 database from the state, that number is actually 29,000. So we're looking at a 10,000 more electric vehicles in the Orange County area, which is a 50% increase over what we originally budgeted for this fiscal year. So the team has done a couple of attempts at analyzing what that means in terms of revenue. And so looking at average miles driven, kilowatt hours per mile, those additional 10,000 vehicles could generate an additional up to $1.5 million in retail sales.
Nice. Thank you for that update.
And then on the water side, we got a little bit of a late start to the rainy season, although rainy season is definitely here now. We got a little bit of a late start though, so that had pushed up our revenue for water usage prior to start of the rainy season. So that's all I have, unless you have questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our Chief Legal Officer, Mr. Browder, Chris, is not with us, so Mr. Morris. Yes, sir. Do we have any legal issues? Not at this time. All right, thank you. All right, well, at this time, then, we're ready for comments. Ms. Bullock, I'm thinking we're going to hear the public, and then we'll hear from you.
Yes, that's correct. Let's do general appearances first.
All right, well, let me do this before we start calling those who have submitted cards to speak to us from the public. I received this package, and I'm announcing this strictly for the record to show that we are taking action. I received the package and was given a briefing as president from our CEO concerning Mr. Robert Nelson, who had questions concerning municipal sales and gross receipt taxes on his bill. What drives it? How do they come about? And very, very interesting questions. I was also impressed. This packet is the staff's response. And we have had responses from the finance area, from customer service, and from legal to Mr. Nelson going back and forth. And the staff is continuing to work this. So I'm being kept abreast of the conversation. He seems pleased so far with what we're doing and the action, and I just wanted the records to show we don't take these lightly. And items of this issue, we do respond. And so we're thankful for that. So that's our first comment from the public. At this time then, we will start calling up. Now let me be clear. I want to remind all members of the public, when you rise, state your name, address, whether you're an OUC customer. Limit your comments to 3 minutes. I have about 15 of you, so it's very, very important that you limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. The commissioners may choose to direct questions to you or staff by contacting you with a response, which I will then note and add to your time limit. But it's very, very important that we adhere to this. All right? So at this time, we will start calling for public comments. The first name we have is Reverend Kathy Schmitz. Yes. Right here, ma'am.
Mayor, Commissioners, thank you. I'm Reverend Kathy Schmitz. I'm speaking today as President of the League of Women Voters of Orange County, representing our over 700 members. The League is a nonpartisan political organization dedicated to protecting voters' rights and empowering citizens. I live at 1500 Mount Vernon Street in Orlando, and I am an OUC customer. At every level of consideration, county, state, and national, the League supports the transition to renewable energy, which is required for a sustainable and resilient grid, as well as the health of our shared planet. At every level of consideration, the League also places a high value on equitable access and impact as we move through the energy transition. We know that those with fewer means are often underrepresented and over-impacted. OUC has stated that it shares these goals. And yet, this proposal appears to move in the opposite direction. I would suggest that this is because this proposal is based on old paradigms, long honored though they may be. They no longer fit the world in which we find ourselves. This proposal disincentivizes net metering. This is exactly the wrong time for such a thing. A robust net metering program is critical to Orlando reaching its 100% renewable energy goals. Net metering is not only essential to these goals, it is, as others will indicate, a sound business practice equitable to all. This proposal unfairly penalizes hardworking families. While some may have the flexibility in the timing of their energy use, for individuals and families struggling to make ends meet, rearranging already tight schedules is simply not an option. This undue financial strain is not equitable. This proposal's demand charges are anything but equitable. When the demands of life cause short-term spikes in usage, customers are penalized not for the duration of that short spike, but for an entire year. Again, it is those already struggling who are most greatly impacted. We can and must do better. We're the city of innovation, of Imagineers and rocket scientists, a city that sets bold goals. If anyone can do this, this is the city that can break and release old paradigms that no longer serve us. This is the city that can imagine the future that is possible, and in doing so, be a model to the state, the nation, and the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cheryl Rogers. And after Ms. Rogers, we'll hear from Charles Behrens, Behrens. Position yourself.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Cheryl Rogers. Thank you for listening. There are two ways to make money. You can reduce costs or you can increase revenue. And I submit to you that there's an opportunity for the current net metering program to do both. And there's two scenarios. In scenario one, a lack of capacity caused by an increased number of customers to serve, as well as by increased temperature fluctuations, can cause demand to rise. When there's a lack of capacity, consumer solar enables you to crowdsource electricity production. In the short term, this provides you or prevents you from having to buy capacity on the spot market at a premium or to cut supply to existing customers. And in the long term, this reduces the high potential costs that are associated with new infrastructure. So the existing net metering program actually reduces costs. In scenario two, when you have excess capacity, you have the ability to sell it on the spot market for a premium. So this increases top-line growth, your revenues. And in both scenarios, having access to excess consumer electricity makes you more resilient to both foreseen and unforeseen circumstances. Distributed solar addresses intermittent availability, and resilience makes you more reliable. So I believe that OUC should be weighing this resilience benefit very highly, quantifying these benefits both to the organization and the community that you serve. You should promote more consumer solar and continue the existing net metering program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Charles, and then after Mr. Behrens, we'll have Michael Cohen. Would you position yourself?
Charles Behrens, Mount Vernon Street. I am an OUC ratepayer. Last month, the citizens presented a clear voice of opposition to almost every aspect of the OUC peak shift proposal. One of the strongest themes was that its disastrous cuts to net metering are the opposite direction of what makes sense. OUC needs to be supporting net metering, as we've just heard, not because of some noble sense of ethics, but because it's good for OUC's bottom line. After last month's meeting, at Commissioner Britta Gross's request, I provided you all with dozens of independent scientific studies that list basically 6 main areas where residential solar helps the bottom line. 1, avoided operation and maintenance costs, both fixed and variable. 2, avoided fuel. 3, avoided generation capacity. 4, avoided reserve capacity from expensive peaker plants. 5, avoided transmission capacity in the lines. And 6, avoided fuel price uncertainty. These independent studies show again and again that today's net metering rates are underpaying residential solar owners and give utilities more than their fair share. In other words, to look at it more positively, OUC is making a profit on net metering. So instead of trying to cut it, the smart thing to do would be to expand the net metering program as much as possible to get solar on every house, building, parking lot, apartment balcony that's got a good view of the sky. Obviously, one way to do this is for solar owners to be compensated even more for the electricity that they generate. That's right, you could actually be paying us more. Incentivize installation by ensuring solar systems are fully credited for the clean, local energy they provide to our grid. And at a minimum, you need to stop slandering solar homeowners. Describing net metering as a subsidy for the rich owners that low-income households have to pay for is just dirty propaganda. Net metering is clearly payment for services provided to the utility, the grid, and our neighbors. Residential solar is truly an economic benefit in the best interest of all of OUC's citizens.
Thank you. After Mr. Cohen, we'll have Heaven Campbell. You position yourself if you're here.
Good afternoon, President Mills, Commissioners, Mayor, Mr. Bullock. I am Michael Cohen. My address is 2505 Donaldson Drive, Orlando. I am an OUC customer. Last month, you collectively said that the net metering changes were not acceptable. You wanted Orlando and St. Cloud to receive their share of the $156 million targeted to LMI households for solar. Although you did not specifically vote on this, I am thrilled that you support net metering and solar for all that Sun, Nature Conservancy, and SELF are coordinating in Florida. So let's talk about demand charges. They're confusing and will only lead to customer anger at getting another fee that makes no sense. Can you, as commissioners, explain demand charges, why they're needed, and how they're determined, and how to minimize them to a 60-year-old Publix cashier? You've been briefed and given documents by the staff. If you can't do this today without a cheat sheet, you should not vote for demand charges at any time in the future. Incentivize customer adoption of batteries, whether you have solar or not. Some utilities in New England provide dollar incentives and offset their high demand times with customer electric from storage. Time of day issues can be offset with customer batteries. Ask OUC staff for a proposal using distributed solar to minimize demand, time of day, and also intermittency. Yesterday, Hurricane Beryl hit Texas and millions lost power. A battery incentive program could help people here cope with down transmission lines that result in major outages without the worry of carbon monoxide deaths from improper use of generators. By the way, your monthly fee is going up to $18.50. In 2015, it was $8. Have your administrative costs gone up 231%? If they have, you're not doing your job. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. After Ms. Campbell, we'll have Eugene Staccardo. Please present yourself. Okay, Ms. Campbell.
Hi, my name is Heaven Campbell, and I'm a Duke customer and a fast talker. I am the Florida Director of Solar United Neighbors. I have long admired the innovation and leadership at OUC, and I have been a frequent advocate reminding OUC to continue forging forward in their customer-centered way. I'm grateful for the meaningful conversations that I've had with staff at OUC. In the face of increasing energy efficiency and renewable energy adoption, OUC seems to be doubling down on an outdated business model, trying to take away customers' ability to control their own usage and move as cunningly as possible to flat rate bills. We encourage you to incentivize, not penalize. Residential customers should not be asked to navigate demand charges. It's cruelest to those of us that struggle the most, and it's very hard to understand, even for savvy energy people like me. The time of use pilot that had a 7-cent incentive was a proven success, yet it's not a part of this proposal. OUC needs as much customer-owned solar as possible to meet your goals and demand from the growing population. You don't have enough land to do this yourself. You should be incentivizing these personal investments as much as possible and introducing strong battery incentives, not like the last pilot version. And in your budget workshop, you pointed to 2 mechanisms of recouping your own clean energy investments. In addition, you also have access via elective pay to the ITC or PTC, whichever you choose to take, which is a huge federal tax credit for your clean energy investments. So that's 3 mechanisms of recouping your own clean energy investments for the cheapest form of generation per all available data and math and per the Florida Solar Energy Center. Lastly, moving from retail net metering while a state court will decide in 2 days if that is even legal is aloof at best. Doing it while Solar for All, Community Change Grants, CPRG, and all of the other federal grants are being pulled down and painstakingly fought for our state and our communities is treacherous at best. I implore you to be the OUC we know and love today and not a wolf in sheep's clothing. Thank you.
After Eugene, we will hear from Rebecca Pryor.
Eugene's-
P-R-I-O-R. Thank you.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Gene.
Good afternoon. Eugene Staccato, 331 Roswell Avenue. I am a ratepayer and a solar person. OUC needs to continue net metering. It makes money for OUC. I believe energy collaboration is a win-win between OUC customers and OUC. And how? The OUC's established grid is one of the largest capital investments for you all. Certainly the largest by land area, over 314 square miles. A challenge to maintain, I'm sure, upgrade due to its huge service area, not to mention working around existing infrastructure. Transmission lines, new ones, to distant utility scale solar farms cost millions of dollars per mile to permit, to plan, to build, to maintain, cutting into the profit margins of OUC. And it's only used during the daylight hours too. Instead of using all that money towards that, I believe that we need to understand what our current grid is, and down to the local level, and it's critical. Where are the underutilized grid areas? That's lost capital to OUC. These areas should be utilized to the max. Solution, in my opinion, is mixing OUC resources along with the private rooftops, homes, businesses, parking areas, churches, and publicly owned buildings. Examples around my area, I live in the Milk District. The Plaza Live, that's public. The Baptist Church right there on Bumby. Colonial Landings, which is part of the city's property area. Orlando Executive has tons of hangars. Just these examples provides enough roof area to provide a few megawatts of solar energy to the existing grid of the area that I live in, which is a pretty dense area. OUC is reaching out to the residents. OUC, by reaching out to the residents and businesses to incentivize establishment and expanding the solar, but additionally adding battery backup. OUC customers can take advantage of the President's federal incentive programs to reduce our costs by 30% for both
You're running
solar.
out of time.
Okay, and battery. I only got a few lines. 2 things that go a long way to create a virtual power plant for OUC. This collaboration would create a much more resilient, geographical, diverse system, cost-effective electrical system. And now just to the internet, its design would be a loss of one node would not bring down the whole system. I believe it's a win-win situation for both parties. Thank you.
Thank you. After Rebecca, we'll hear from Christopher Mangat. Please align yourself if you're here, Christopher.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Pryor. I live on North Solandra Drive. I'm an OUC customer. I'm very concerned about losing net metering capabilities. I've always been a very practical person. I have a teaching certification as an agriculture teacher, and I grew up hands-on learning. My children learned a lot of 4-H, practical applications with their hands. And I felt by being a part of the Solar United Co-op when I first downsized, my house was not able to get into the solar on my rooftop at that time, but I saw how it worked and it seemed very sensible. The community, OUC, everybody was behind doing this. So the next time it came around, when both Orlando and Orange County had a co-op, I became part of that, and I took now part of my retirement money invested in rooftop solar. And now when I'm being told that my investment is not going to be paying me back, I'm going to have to keep paying more again. It just doesn't sound right. That, you know, this has been out here, this is great, everybody needs to have solar. I think we do. I bought a used plug-in hybrid car that I charge up with my solar. I think solar should be on every rooftop available. And people that are using it, we should be paid back for the extra that we don't need. Why should we have to build extra farms, extra places? I don't like it taking over agricultural lands. I like voltaics when we have the solar along with farming with the solar. I don't know that OUC is doing that. But anyway, those are some of my concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. After Christopher, we'll have Ben Paulin, I believe. Oh, there you go.
Hi, I'm Christopher Mango. I live in Apopka. I'm not an OUC customer. I've been a solar contractor in the Orlando area for almost 40 years. We're one of the oldest companies to work with OUC. We're very proud of what OUC has done as far as I'm concerned, the leading municipal utility in the state when it comes to solar programs. Getting rid of the current net metering program and going to this time of use program where customers are just getting paid, you know, fuel costs for whatever energy they put back into the grid will kill customer-owned solar. You'll get, it'll go down to almost nothing. Nobody has an incentive to put grid-tied solar in their home if they're getting paid fuel costs for anything they feed back into the grid. I echo everything everybody said. You know, distributed solar is great for the grid. When people have excess energy produced by their system going into the grid, it prevents peakers from turning on. You know, at the peak period of the day, solar is producing at its peak, and a lot of that energy is being fed to neighbors, and it prevents peakers from turning on. The current net metering program is just good for OUC, period. There is, you know, I don't see, you know, like I said, it's gonna definitely cut down on anybody buying solar if you go to the proposed program that, you know, gives fuel costs. You know, we've worked together with you guys for years. We're a preferred contractor. Our company's one of the oldest contracting companies in this area. And we've been a preferred contractor of OUCs for many, many years. And I've been very proud of that association. We'd like to keep things the way they are. It's only good for OUC, and it's only good for the industry as a whole. It's only good for homeowners who want to put solar in their home. And as previous people have said, you're not going to get to it on your own. You need customer-owned generation to get to your goals of how much solar you need to be able to be, you know, off, you know, everything else. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much. After Ben, we will have Olaf Tenenhoff, I believe. Is he here? Yes. Oh, okay. Ben.
Thanks. Ben Paloon, 6224 Virginia Ann Lane, Orange County. I am not an OUC customer. I am happy to be here. Currently serve as the chair of Lake County's Economic Development Council, where we have excellent relationships in that area, more so with SECO and with Duke. And that's a big reason why I wanted to spend 2 minutes of your time, was to talk really about partnerships and alignment of interest. I was fortunate to move to Florida from South Africa, where we did not have the reliable power that OUC affords us. And so I don't think in all of these discussions that should also be overlooked, is that when we flip the switch on, the lights come on, generally speaking. And so that is also appreciated. My company employs about 20 folks here in Central Florida. We principally roll out EV charging infrastructure throughout the Southeast United States, as well as we do solar implementation. And like in our case, our wages start at about $55,000, $60,000, very meaningful industry in particular for folks that, I mean, we hire completely untrained in any way, shape, or form. And so I think that that is something that I certainly take some humble pride in having located in this area, in particular, between our two industries. In this case, I'm talking about solar and EV charging and the utility space. I fundamentally believe, which is why I've done the economic development route, that we have more alignment of interest than we do adversarial positions. And I believe that as discussions like this, whether it's solar or 15 other things, move through the pipeline, that focusing on those ultimate alignment of interests, whether it's reliable, stable, affordable, predictable power, gives us better outcomes than working in unnecessary adversarial ways. And that was my big encouragement for coming up. It's why I've put my time and my money on the economic development side, working with other utilities. In particular, I think there was a great stat you used on simple, low number EV adoption and how on a relative basis, even the numbers that OUC presented for solar, cost shifting and others, I don't have opinions on that. I have not well enough studied. It's so de minimis, A, in the overall budget, and B, relative to the effort that's involved in these things, it's almost, I mean, I don't want to say red herring because that's inappropriate, but you bring another 20,000 EVs on. I mean, we had every fleet vehicle we had is another small apartment.
You're running out.
Thank you. And my point in making that is there's far more benefit in aligning growth than fighting small sort of battles. And I appreciate being part of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. And then next in line would be Mr. Ben Millar, Millar. You, sir. Olaf, right?
Yeah, that's me. Good afternoon, everyone. I am an electrical engineer and an OUC customer at 711 Terrace Boulevard here in Orlando. And I want to address something important regarding demand charges, which I know is an upcoming topic. And for EV drivers, obviously, demand charges would be a disincentive to install level 2 charging because you can bring your current up so much that you risk tripping over the edge to get demand charged. Everybody knows that. But what I think few people know is that if people are disincentivized from level 2 charging, they might just stay with the regular 120 outlet and do level 1 charging, which is less efficient. And there are a lot of studies about this. Most well-known is one from IEEE a couple of years ago, shows about 5% less efficiency in level 1. But those tests, those tests behind that are all done in cold climates and doesn't account for the base load that an EV has when it's charging. And when it takes longer to charge, you have a longer base load. So since I couldn't find anything, I think this is an important topic. I did conducted a test on my own EV with different chargers here last week at 88 degrees ambient temperature, which is pretty normal for the summer. And the difference in efficiency was shocking, even to me. I knew it was going to be a lot, but are you ready for this? 50% more energy per mile driven if you charge on level 1 in the heat we have here. So those 29,000 EVs that we have in Orange County, if they were all charged on level 1, they would use the same amount of energy as if they were 44,000. So
you have to wrap up, sir.
Sorry?
You have to wrap up.
Yes. So that's all I wanted to say. I have the results of the tests available in case anybody likes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Maybe send it to someone
Yes.
here.
Would you please?
Yeah. Who should I send it to?
Paul will take it and then we'll get it distributed to the management team.
Paula, stand up, please.
Correct.
Paula? Yeah. Yes, she'll get it. Thank you, sir. All right, after Ben, we'll have Jim Callahan.
My name is Ben Millar. I'm actually a TECO customer, but I'm a slow speaker. I'm not a fast speaker. Do want to thank you for having me here today. I'm the president of FLASIA, the Florida Solar Energy Industries Association, which is way too long to say, so we just say FLASIA. We have about 180 member companies with a couple thousand employees that are represented. These are contractors, manufacturers, distributors, all sorts of groups working in the solar industry. We did get a chance to meet with OUC staff today, so we're really happy to do that and thankful for the conversation that we had. Many of the people here that have been speaking have been saying the same types of things that I would be saying, but I do want to then touch on a separate piece after this first piece, which is the proposal that was given previously would decimate the ability for people to move forward with solar in OUC territory. From what we can see, that does not help OUC meet any of its goals. In fact, it would actually make things a lot harder to meet those goals. So that proposal doesn't help. But on a future look, kind of going forward, if we take a look at if we implement and continue to implement positive policies towards solar, and even I would say net metering is a neutral policy in my mind. Using distributed energy resources is the most affordable way for us to meet the energy demands of the future, particularly in light of the renewable energy goals that we have. So I'll say that again, because this is incredibly important. We've got a future that includes more demand than what we thought was before, includes more EVs than we thought we were going to meet. Maybe a data center, maybe not, right? There's all these demands that are coming. In order to meet those demands, if we do not use rooftop solar, it's going to cost everybody more money. If we do use it, if we come together and we figure out a way for OUC to utilize the resources that are there, that are invested in by its own citizens that can take advantage of it, we can then find a way forward to make this affordable for everybody, all right? That's what we have to go to, and we want to continue working with OUC to talk about what that looks like, but that technology is available. The grid control, the EV charging infrastructure, solar, batteries, that's there. And so what I would say is let's continue to talk there, but that proposal that was given simply does not work.
Thank you. Jim? After Jim, let me spell the first name, A-L-E, it looks like J-A-N-D-R-O-I. Yes, sir, thank you.
Yes, thank you, President Mills and Mayor Dyer and the commissioners. My name is Jim Callahan. I live at 204 East South Street, the Grand Condominium, about 2 blocks from here behind the Performing Arts Center. And I'm an OUC customer, and I participate in community solar, 80% community solar. I keep a little bit of the other around just to be able to compare the prices. And I enjoyed the fact that community solar was cheaper on the fuel costs, but now it looks like you're reversing that, if I understood the presentation correctly, which I was catching it on the fly, so I'm not sure I did. But what I was really concerned about was in the power shift presentation apparently you had at the last meeting, there was a chart that I found seriously misleading. In fact, I would not recommend it for decision-making. It compared the cost of solar to natural gas. And it was the levelized cost of solar compared to the dispatch cost of gas. For one thing, you might want to use levelized cost on both of them so you have a more apples to apples comparison. And also, as we all know, the sun doesn't shine all the time. So the equivalent cost on solar to natural gas where you have a peaking plant would be to have a battery electric storage system. I'm also a Tesla shareholder, and the Tesla product would be the Tesla Megapack. And the solar costs have been coming down dramatically. I was just Googling a Lazard study on the levelized cost of solar, and you had this huge parabola that had just bottomed out, and there'd been a tiny tick back up. And that's not what this chart shows at all. And I think you'd have tremendous legal liability if you pass this plan on the basis of this chart. This is unsuitable for decision-making is the way I would put it. And it has this note here saying solar 2.5 times natural gas. Even if you accept the numbers in this chart, you can see the cost of natural gas doubled between 2020 and 2023. So it's a highly volatile fuel. It'll go up and down in price as compared to solar, which should have a much more stable price except for the inverter electronics.
Thank you.
Also, I didn't see anything in the presentation about consumer demand management or on the commercial side, commercial industrial side, I didn't see anything about curtailable energy. If you're worried about the peak, those are two tools that the utility should have, used to have, to be able to moderate the peak. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And the last one after will be John Bickerton. Is John here? Yes. I'm sorry, what did he say?
Yeah, I couldn't hear.
He'll pass, but he'll see his minutes if that other guy wants to talk some more.
Oh, go ahead, sir. Come on.
Yeah, sure thing. So I'm Alejandro Flores. I'm one of the state leads in Poder Latinx, Florida. And I'm just here to share that the recent decision to decline grandfathering net metering existing customers is very worrisome to us and to the community in Orlando. Many households have invested a substantial amount of money into swapping to solar energy, and they expect that investment to come back and to actually benefit their families. And changing the rules of the game after so many years is essentially wrong and very unfair for our community. We have seen the consequences of such decisions in states like Nevada, and where they caused job losses and market collapses. And essentially they had to go back and backtrack on those decisions. So that should serve as a cautionary tale for us here in Orlando. As we face an unprecedented opportunity to invest in clean energy, such as the IRA, it is crucial that we ensure that benefits reach all of our residents, particularly those in low-income communities. I urge OUC and the community to listen to the voices of Orlando. Let us move forward together with a commitment to fairness, transparency, and the shared goal of a greener, more resilient Orlando. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Well, Mr. Bickerton, are you going to speak or are you waving?
No, I think I'll pass. I think all the points I was going to mention have been made.
Thank you, sir. All right. Well, listen, let me, before we move forward with our general manager's comments, do you have something else, Clint?
I seem to have a Joel. Is there a Joel that hasn't had a chance to speak yet? No.
He left, yes. Okay. Before our general manager gives his comments, let me say this. I want to commend all of you from the public. We've done this a couple times, and this was the most well-ran, adhered to 3-minute for such a large amount. So I want to commend you, and thank you so much for respecting the rules given. I applaud you for that. Thank you. Our general manager.
Thank you, President Mills. Yes, I want to also thank everyone for their time for coming out on this discussion. We recognize that it's a complex, difficult discussion, no doubt. Not sure if some of you maybe heard some of my opening comments. I'm not going to repeat all my opening comments, but rest assured we continue to receive feedback. The teams, the OUC teams are working with many of you and others to try to understand some of your points, review some of those studies, and for us, a chance to perhaps continue the education on some of the items that maybe we're not being clear about, or that maybe we're getting compared to other states or other utilities when perhaps these programs that we're recommending are a little bit different. So the bottom line is we've indicated we're not approving anything today. We're not, it wasn't part of the workshop. We're not going to discuss it at the next board meeting in August. And at earliest, based on receiving some feedback, we will come back and provide the commission an update in the September commission meeting at earliest. So we're trying to take the appropriate amount of time. We're trying to hear the feedback. And we're certainly trying to make the best recommendation with all of the challenges and issues that we need to address for the utility for these programs. But I do want to thank you for the time. I just wanted one thing. I didn't get a chance to do it during the budget workshop, but certainly want to address Mindy and Chris, the entire budget team, and really the entire executive team. Not to get into all the details, but it was a difficult budget process. We all challenged each other pretty hard. There certainly were other perhaps initiatives and projects that we all would like to have moved forward, but for budgetary reasons to maintaining rates, we just weren't able to do that at this time. I'm really pleased that we're able to keep the $125 for the 1,000 kilowatt hour rate the same. There's a lot of challenges we're all facing with labor costs and material costs that all utilities and all companies are certainly facing, but I'm proud we were able to reduce the fuel appropriately, make a slight adjustment on the customer charge, and still come in at the 125. So the team worked extremely hard. Certainly appreciate all their efforts and the teamwork that they had to do to make all the compromises. So with that, President Mills, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, at this point then, any commissioner comments? Starting with you, Mayor.
I'll just be completely competitive or repetitive. So I'll be repetitive of Chris or Clint first, and thank Chris and Mindy and the entire finance team. We're over at the city doing a similar type of exercise right now, so I know all the hours and work that goes into that. You don't often get thanked, so I just want to add my thanks to that. And then I'll be repetitive to the president on the speakers that were here today. That was actually one of the more, I would say, thoughtful and civil general appearance sessions that I've been through, and I've been through a lot of them for the last 20 years, so I can tell you that your points are better received when they are delivered in that fashion than with a lot of screaming and wailing and jumping up and down, so I appreciate that.
Again, thank staff. I'd like to thank the residents who came out and gave feedback. I have a lot of questions. I wrote down a lot of your questions, some that I'm going to fact check you, just like I'm going to fact check OUC. So we'll be doing that, as Clint mentioned, over the next few months. So I've been keeping track of the questions that were most interesting to me. Thank you.
Maybe I'll just say ditto, everybody. And say just again, thank you, OUC, for always really keeping an eye on all the balls in the air. If it's not the budget, then it's the community outreach. If it's not that, it's affordability programs that we offer. So I think, really good. No one gets distracted. We're not doing knee-jerk stuff. We're really thinking through everything. It's really complicated. I would just say in the space of solar and net metering, there's really nothing black and white about it. It is really all a lot of gray. So I too will be reading and continuing to read everything. Charles, thank you for sending over the other stuff. I did read the National Lab report and know the checklist you're reading from, wherever your 6 points came from. Thanks, Charles. I will also be checking on a few of these things. And then, thank you for these little tidbits. I can't believe I have to admit this, but my fans are all running at high speed at home. I didn't know. How do I not know that it's really only when a person's in the room that you want to run your fans, and that it's not useful right now. So I walk away again with something I did not know. So thank you.
Yeah, let me share a personal insight. My wife asked me the other day, when does my term end at OUC? She says, because after every meeting, you come back with all these demands. Turn that fan off, do this, do that. Why are you washing at 12 o'clock in the middle of the day? So anyway, I want to just share with you all what you as customers hear, we as commissioners hear also, and we try to apply. So I just wanted to share that. Couple observations. I want to thank the staff. As always, my heart toward community. The empowerment zone, the project care data, was fascinating, and to see so many of our employees and management team participating, I love that. Want to thank those for our capital and budget. You balanced necessary price increases with giving back to the customer in a very great mood. And then I want to share with the public and those who are here as we wrap up personal insight from the commissioners. Starting at May 30th, We have received 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 commissioner personal FYIs that deal with pricing, peak shift media coverage, Orlando Sentinel, peak shift public comments summarized from emails and things sent. I want you to know that we pay close attention to what you're saying. And each commissioner here will validate. And this is not in my script. I just felt the urge after so many of you came out to share personal insight. So we hear you and we heed you. And as a result of that, we came to this meeting in May saying that we would make a decision on peak shift in July. Last meeting, I asked the staff to look at that and not rush to a decision. Our CEO has shared with you, I thought we would make the decision in August, but we've received so much data from you. We won't be making a decision on peak shift and net metering. At earliest will be at our September meeting. We're going to heed all the data that you're giving us. We will look at it and get back. And so we're not rushing this process. We're going to hear from you and hear from staff and balance it. So I just want to share that with you, that we're not as close to decision-making as some of you may think. We appreciate your comments and everything that we have heard, as Commissioner said, particularly some of the data that you found. We're going to, I don't want to say digest it. We're going to make sure we understand it and that it provides an intelligible thing. So, hey, I commend my fellow commissioners for their diligence and attendance and attentiveness to the process. I commend the staff, but I commend you, the public, for taking the time out to come and educate us. If there are no other commissioner comments, without any other objection, this meeting is adjourned at 3:51. Thank you so much. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pretty close, sir. I'll take it.